There is a truth about women that feels so counterintuitive, so absurd, so wrong to the male mind that most men reject it the moment they hear it. But their lives, their relationships, and their heartbreaks continue proving it again and again. The truth is this: women don't fall for men who try to make them fall. They don't love the man who bends, adjusts, or shapes himself to be chosen. They don't desire the man who works tirelessly to win their approval. In fact, the harder a man tries to make a woman love him, the faster something inside her shuts down. And the strangest part? The moment a man stops trying to be loved is often the moment she begins to feel something for him. It sounds strange, almost backward, but this is the core of feminine psychology. One of those laws no one explains, yet everyone feels. Before we go deeper, I want you to tell me something in the comments. Has there ever been a moment where you gave a woman everything, attention, affection, consistency, and somehow doing more made her feel less? Share your story, because your experience might reveal the invisible pattern you've never recognized. Men grow up believing that love is earned through effort. Show her you care. Prove you're different. Make her feel special. These instructions sound noble, but they lead straight into the biggest attraction killer of all: performing. The moment a woman senses that a man's actions are fueled by fear, fear of losing her, fear of not being enough, fear of not being chosen, her instinctive response is withdrawal. Not because she dislikes him and not because she wants to punish him, but because something inside her feels pressured. Women feel the weight of male insecurity not as endearing, but as suffocating. They feel it before he says a single word. They feel it in his breathing, in the slight tension in his voice, in the way his eyes search for signs of approval. They feel it in his posture, in the way he rushes to reassure, in the way he over-explains even the smallest things. His anxiety becomes a quiet demand. Please love me. And that demand pushes her away faster than the man can understand. But something else happens when a man stops reaching outward, when he stops trying to secure her affection, when he stands in himself with a presence that doesn't ask for permission to exist. His energy changes, his nervous system settles, his breathing deepens, his movements slow. His voice sinks into its natural tone instead of rising into a question. His eyes stop scanning for reassurance and begin simply observing. This is when a woman feels something she can't quite describe. A pull, a curiosity, a sense of mystery, a sense of safety. A sense that she's in the presence of a man who is not performing, not negotiating, not pleading for her affection, but expressing himself fully. This contrast is at the heart of attraction. Pressure repels, presence attracts. Let's imagine a simple moment: a man and a woman in conversation. The dependent man leans forward too much, laughs too loudly, nods too quickly. His body reveals a story. I hope this is going well. He doesn't realize that his effort is louder than his words. But the self-possessed man leans back slightly, not as a tactic, but as a natural expression of comfort in himself. He does not rush to fill silences, because silent spaces don't scare him. He answers her questions without trying to craft the perfect persona. His presence doesn't collapse into her, it stands beside her. A woman doesn't fall for the man who tries to impress her. She falls for the man who impresses himself. This is why the title makes perfect sense. It sounds strange, but this is what they love. Because if you tell a man that women love the man who doesn't try to make them love him, he will look at you like you're crazy. But if you tell a woman this, she will quietly nod because she's felt it her entire life. Let's go deeper into the internal mechanics of this. A man who tries to make a woman love him broadcasts an unintended message. My emotional state depends on you. My sense of worth depends on how you respond. I need your validation to feel grounded. Women feel this instantly because female psychology evolved to detect emotional stability in a partner. Stability signals strength. Stability signals leadership. Stability signals future security. And stability cannot exist in a man who needs her reactions to feel whole. But when a man does not try to make her love him, she feels something different. A man who loves himself. A man who trusts his own value. A man who expresses interest without outsourcing his identity. A man who desires but does not depend. In feminine psychology, this sensation is extremely powerful. It tells her, "This man stands on solid ground. My emotions cannot unbalance him. My presence doesn't dictate his worth." And this creates space, psychological space, for her attraction to grow. Women love men who create space, not tension. Space for her emotions, space for her curiosity, space for her desire to rise naturally instead of being forced. Trying to make a woman love you closes that space. Not trying opens it. Let's go even further. Every man has lived a moment where he acted from need instead of presence. Think back, the text you sent too quickly, the apology you gave when you did nothing wrong, the message you reread 10 times before sending, the overthinking that made you look for signs that weren't there, the way your chest tightened when she took too long to respond, all of it coming from the same root. "I'm afraid of losing her." But you never notice that in trying not to lose her, you lose yourself first. And that is the moment she begins to lose desire. Women don't lose interest because you aren't enough. They lose interest because you stop being yourself. Now imagine a different man, a man whose energy is whole, even in uncertainty. He texts when he genuinely wants to communicate, not when he fears losing connection. He doesn't rush to respond if he's focused on something else. He doesn't collapse when her tone shifts. He doesn't assume her emotional wave is a sign of rejection. He remains rooted, present, centered. This man is not indifferent. He is simply unmoved by fear, and that difference is everything. A woman in the presence of a man like this feels something ancient: safety, respect, desire, curiosity, softness. Because she feels the emotional weight of a man who doesn't beg for her affection, he invites her into his world. Let's explore a psychological principle that explains this even further. In neuroscience, there is a concept called interpersonal resonance. It means that human beings subconsciously synchronize their emotional states. So when a man's energy is anxious, the woman's body tightens. When a man's energy is grounded, the woman's nervous system relaxes. This is why women love the man who doesn't try to make them love him, because his energy tells her without words, "You can relax. I am not here to take something from you." Trying feels like taking. Not trying feels like allowing. And women open in environments of allowance, not extraction. But perhaps the strangest part is this. A man's emotional independence makes a woman feel more emotionally connected to him. When he doesn't chase, she wonders why. When he doesn't over-explain, she leans in. When he doesn't crumble, she feels respect. When he doesn't change himself to fit her, she feels attraction. When he doesn't try to make her love him, she gets curious about the man he is. Curiosity is the spark. Respect is the oxygen. Desire is the flame. And all of it begins when he stops forcing the fire. Let me give you a symbolic metaphor to clarify this. Women respond to emotional weight the way gravity responds to mass. A man who is light, insecure, constantly reaching outward, his gravity is weak. A woman can walk in and out of his orbit without feeling anything. But a man who stands in himself, whose presence has density, depth, calm, she feels pulled into him without understanding why. Women don't love men who try to be loved. Women love men who are centers of gravity. Now, let's transition into the internal transformation of the man in this story. The man watching this video. You've spent years learning to chase approval, years learning to win affection, years learning to adjust yourself to avoid rejection, years thinking love is earned through self-abandonment. But something in you knows that this has never worked. Something in you knows that performing doesn't create real connection. Something in you knows that losing yourself to keep her only makes her lose interest. So here begins the transformation. You stop trying to manage her perception. You stop trying to control her emotions. You stop trying to predict her reactions. You stop trying to make her love you. And in that quiet, unfamiliar space, your real presence emerges. You begin to breathe naturally. You begin to speak without calculation. You begin to look without seeking validation. You begin to move with calmness instead of tension. You begin to listen without losing your center. You begin to feel without collapsing. This is what feminine psychology responds to. Not strategy, not charm, not performance, presence. presence that isn't trying to be loved, it's simply being. And now that you understand the core truth behind the title, the next block, the final block, will reveal the full payoff, why this works, how women interpret it, how to embody it naturally, and why this is the essence of masculine authority and attraction. When you understand the strange truth that women love a man who doesn't try to make them love him, the entire dynamic between men and women begins to look different. Everything that used to confuse you starts making sense. The moments when she pulled away just as you were giving more, the times when she suddenly lost interest after you opened your heart, the situations where your best intentions were met with distance instead of closeness, all of it points back to this one psychological reality. A woman does not love effort, she loves essence. She does not love pursuit, she loves presence. She does not love pressure, she loves freedom. And the man who stops trying to control her emotional response becomes the man who naturally evokes it. But to truly understand this, you have to look deeper, beyond behavior, beyond tips, beyond tactics, into the internal structure of how feminine attraction forms. Because feminine desire is not logical, it is not procedural, it does not follow formulas or scripts. It responds to the emotional world you create, not the actions you perform. A woman is drawn to the man whose presence does not beg for her affection. A woman opens to the man whose self-worth does not depend on her reaction. A woman trusts the man who stands without trembling. A woman loves the man who does not try to force her love. This is where everything transforms, because emotional independence changes not only how she sees you, it changes how you move through every moment with her. A man who does not try to make a woman love him does not collapse into emotional fear. He does not overthink. He does not monitor her tone for signs of rejection. He does not rush to fill silence. He does not act from tension. He does not speak from anxiety. His entire system shifts from reactive to rooted, and that shift is what women feel the most. Let's explore how this appears in real interactions. Imagine a woman pulling back emotionally. A dependent man panics. He texts more. He asks if everything is okay. His body tightens, his voice becomes higher. He attempts to fix the distance by increasing energy in her direction. But increasing energy when she is withdrawing feels like pressure. It suffocates her instinct, pushing her further away. Now imagine the man who does not try to make her love him. He feels the shift too, but he does not chase it. He does not mirror her tension. He simply returns to himself, his focus, his life, his center. Not as a tactic, but as a natural expression of emotional independence. And in that moment she feels something surprising. Relief. His calmness tells her he is not emotionally collapsing. And once she feels safe again, the space between them becomes breathable instead of suffocating. This is why women say, "I need space," but what they really mean is, "I need room to feel without being pressured." A man who doesn't try to make her feel something gives her the room to feel everything. Let's go deeper. In feminine psychology, attraction is born from contrast. A woman needs to feel your presence, not your pressure, your desire, not your desperation, your clarity, not your confusion, your steadiness, not your instability. This is why trying to make her love you fails. It reverses the polarity. It drains the masculine energy from your presence and replaces it with a childlike plea. Please choose me. But a woman does not fall for a boy who seeks approval. She falls for a man who stands in his truth. Every time a man tries to force connection, he accidentally communicates emotional fragility. And feminine instinct is wired to avoid fragility in men, not out of cruelty, but out of psychology. A fragile man feels unsafe. His emotions are easily shaken. His stability depends on her, and no woman wants to carry the emotional weight for both of them. But a man who is not trying to make her love him radiates a different signal entirely. I will not crumble if you take a step back. I will not bend myself to avoid your disappointment. I will not abandon my center to chase your emotions. I desire you, but I do not depend on you. And that signal triggers respect, which triggers curiosity, which triggers desire. Let's analyze something subtle but powerful. A woman's tests. People often talk about female tests as if they are manipulative. They're not. They're instinctive. Women test men not to control them but to understand them, to feel whether his presence is real or conditional, to sense whether he stands or collapses, to see whether his calmness is authentic or performative. Because if your confidence disappears the moment she expresses uncertainty, then it wasn't confidence, it was need wearing a mask. A woman wants to see what happens when life applies pressure to you. She wants to see whether your emotions are internally regulated or externally dependent. She wants to see whether your sense of value is self-generated or borrowed from her reactions. Not because she wants to break you, but because she wants to break the illusion. And the moment she sees that you don't try to win her love, that your presence is not a performance, that your emotions are your own responsibility, that you allow her space to feel, that you don't cling to her responses, that is the moment she feels love forming, even if she doesn't want it to. Not trying to make her love you activates the deepest feminine instinct, to choose you freely. And desire born from freedom is 10 times stronger than desire born from effort. Let's explore a powerful emotional metaphor. Imagine your presence like a shoreline. If the shoreline moves every time a wave hits it, the water has nothing to trust. But if the shoreline remains steady, firm but not rigid, strong but not cold, the waves can crash, retreat, return, and play with no fear of destroying the land beneath them. This is what women love. A man who stands like a shoreline, strong, present, unshaken by emotional waves. Now let's move into the psychological and neuroscientific validation behind this. Modern psychology shows that humans are wired to assign value based on scarcity and stability. The more emotionally stable someone is, the more value the brain assigns to them. The more reactive someone is, the less value the brain assigns. Meanwhile, attachment theory explains that individuals with secure emotional structures create environments where others feel safe and grounded. So when a man stops trying to make a woman love him, he stops destabilizing both nervous systems. He becomes the secure base psychologists talk about. A woman's biology reacts to that instantly. Now let's move toward the payoff, the revelation behind the entire message, the real secret. Women love a man who doesn't try to make them love him because his presence gives them the freedom to love him naturally. Women don't fall for pressure. They fall for inner truth. They fall for alignment. They fall for emotional sovereignty. A woman cannot resist a man whose strength does not crush her and whose softness does not weaken him. She cannot resist a man who can desire her without depending on her. She cannot resist a man who expresses interest without needing a reaction. When you stop trying, your soul shows up, and women feel souls more deeply than behaviors. Now let's close with the transformation arc, the final shift inside you, the part that completes your new identity. You are no longer the man who tries to impress. You speak from your chest, not your fear. You move from your purpose, not from her approval. You breathe from your center, not from anxiety. You are no longer the man who collapses when she pulls away. You remain grounded. You remain warm. You remain whole. You are no longer the man who chases validation. You validate yourself. You create your own emotional gravity. You let her come closer because she wants to, not because you pushed. You become the man who does not try to be loved, and therefore becomes unforgettable. This is the final truth. You were never supposed to chase love. You were supposed to hold a presence that love chases. And if you want to take this further, if you want to master the full internal code of masculine presence and emotional self-governance, stay close. Because soon, you'll have access to the complete system of psychological reprogramming designed to turn these insights into identity. But for now, remember this. The less you try to be loved, the more a woman feels the freedom to love you. And that is what they truly love.